I'm Stephanie. Welcome to my Otter Creation Songbird studio. And I'm happy to be here to connect a little bit different way than usual. I've never done this before. And I'm going to be doing a quick tour of the studio here and also talking about the series of art paintings that I've been working on and will be continuing to work on throughout this year. As I do that, I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and that helps keep me on track too, because it sort of gets me like, okay, I send it out about once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, and just gives you notes on what I'm doing. I will highlight a painting for that week that fits into this art series. And so to do that, you can go to my website, and I'm going to see if I can. There we go. There's a picture of my website, and I circled subscribe over there. You just go on there and subscribe to the newsletter if you want. And also, on the left, I underlined the studio process. On there, there's a drop-down menu, and you can look at more about this series of series of paintings I'm working on. There's an intro, and there will be more information about this series. And then there's also a blog I do that will be under that studio process as well. Sometimes I post like painting backstories on there. And then after tonight, I will also add onto that, underneath there, a link, or a link to an online gallery exhibit that you can watch as this slowly evolves over the coming months, so that you can watch this exhibit online. And that will be like a slideshow with notes underneath each painting slideshow. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that, and so I will post that probably tomorrow. So that's what that is. So yes, if you're just joining me, I'm Stephanie, the artist here at Otter Creation Songbird Studio. And as I was saying, I'm going to be giving a little tour of my art studio here, and highlighting one painting to talk about in particular, and talking about the series of paintings that I'm working on this year. And the goal is for next year to take this out to art spaces throughout Minnesota on a tour. So that's the goal, and this year you can just sort of watch it grow. So let's get started. I need to also add, yes, as I go along here, please send questions if you have any. And at the end, I will try to get to those and answer them. So, yes, please do that. So, the name of this series that I'm working on is The Elegance of the Universe, A Thing of Beauty. And I want to explain where that title comes from. It's the second part of the title, A Thing of Beauty, comes from a John Keats poem from Endymion, and it's a thing of beauty is a joy forever. And I'm just going to read a few lines from that. It's not long. So here we go. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams, and health, and quiet breathing. So that is celebrating the timelessness of beauty, which we can find in art, and it's restful, and it can speak to us on many levels. That's my goal as an artist, is to reach and connect in some way with my viewers. The first part of the title of this art series, The Elegance of the Universe, goes way back to when I was a student at the University of Minnesota taking college algebra class. and there was a particularly difficult algebra problem the class did not get. So the TA was explaining it to us several times in different ways, and he finally got through to us, and he could tell we got it. We all got it. There was this collective moment, this pause of understanding, the kind of scintillation in the air, and then he exclaimed, "Isn't it elegant how mathematical equations can be solved?" And I had never thought of that. Elegant. Yes, it was. And that has always stuck with me. There's an elegance in the patterns we find in nature and in the universe. And so that kind of brings together a lot for me in this series. And also, I also wrote down to explain to you what I mean by the art that I'm doing. So I had just a few notes here. The themes that I'm doing is, for one thing, connectivity. So a lot of the abstract pieces, those will have lines. I will use composition with line and form. And it's kind of teaching or showing connection to each other, connection to nature, and connecting to the underlying forces of the universe to which we are connected inseparably. So there's nothing we can do about gravity or whatever that is affecting us in this elegant universe we live in. Some of the paintings are about opening a door to a wider perspective, thinking or looking outside the box. And I think that when a person's perspective widens, it leads to connection and empathy among each other. Patterns in nature, as I talked about. Paths through barriers. So this would be about personal journey. Some of the paintings speak to that. That's where they come from my point of view, why I created them. Moving forward through time. And then again, math and science ideas. Some of these things are sort of like particle physics, cosmic forces guiding us. And these will include string theory, Fibonacci sequence, which I'm going to talk about today in a few minutes, this evening. Trigonometry, botany, climate change, but these are not meant to be for themselves. It's through the art. So my purpose is not to explain science through my art at all. That is not my purpose. My purpose as an artist is to create works of beauty that connect on an emotional level to you, the viewer, because that is where I am coming from as an artist, from a very deep personal and emotional, sacred realm, I guess you could say. So, as an artist, I take these ideas, these creative visions that come to me from wherever they come from, I don't know, and I translate them for you. And it's my way of connecting with you. So enough about that. I think we should move along, and I'm going to do a quick tour of my studio now, where I work. My heater went on. I can't help that. My heater went on. It's maybe kind of loud. I hope you can hear me. Oh boy. Alright, so we're going to go over here. These are a very important part of life. Organization. These are my flat files. So I'm going to just show you a couple drawers, because I always love, when there's drawers, I want to open them and see what's inside. I'm going to open this one. This drawer has my paintings that are on the large size. So here's one. This is going to be in a show in March. So that's why it's kind of out of its plastic package. I'm going to have to frame that up. And that, I'm just checking you can see this. Yes. See this? It's called Pipe Dream. Okay, there's that one. And then a similar one I just wanted to show you. I just completed this last week. This is a watercolor also, and I'm really happy with it, how it came out. It is called Chia Seeds, and I believe this will be part of the exhibition as well. And then finally, there's a whole bunch of in here. You know, these are the large ones. This is also a recently completed painting, and this is really fits into the theme. It is called Red Pine Candle of Light, of Love, a Light. Red Pine Candle of Love, a Light. This is, in botany, this is a candle, which is a new branchlet in the spring, which will be coming soon. You look for these on the red pines. This is a female flower, and those are the pine cones. So that's what that is. And then one other thing as part of my process, get this I have this drawer here, this one, on the bottom. This is kind of my working drawer because I do a lot of paintings at the same time. Like I will have different steps, and then maybe it's drying, or I have to saw something for it, or I have to gesso something. It needs 24 hours to dry. So I will have notes in here, sketches, so that I can quickly go and find what I'm looking for on the particular piece I'm working on, a reference photo. This will be some reference photo for another tree. So anyway, on and on the mysterious files. So let's move on to my watercolor table. So here's where I do a lot of my smaller paintings. And there's my stuff, my messy table. And then you can see farther over there is another workstation. And the easel, right there, it's kind of hiding because I pulled it out. I want to use that in a few minutes to talk. But that is another workstation where I do acrylics and oils on an upright easel. And everything's ready to hand over there. And then over here, here's my business name, Otter Creations. And there's that easel over there. Here is my frame shop. So I have a mat cutter, and there's a frame there I'm working on right now, painting it. It's going to be black, so it's gessoed actually. And my drill and different things. And below, you'll see below the frame table, or the work table there, I use that to store watercolor paper. I have it in several weights, excuse me, weights of paper. 300 pound is the heaviest that I use. It's a very heavy paper. The ones that I showed you are very stiff. Those are on 300 pound paper. So that's where those are stored. And now I'm going to put this over here so we can talk about Star Helix. This is the star of our show today. Come on. Okay, Star Helix, there it is. And I will stand next to it so you can see the perspective of how big it is. And so, when I start doing a painting, the first thing I have to do is decide what media and what am I going to paint it on. And in this case, I chose a hardboard, and it's cradled, so it's 2 inches thick, and it's stained on the side in a rosewood stain, which I really love because it kind of picks up the rosiness of the painting. And so that's what I wanted to do for this. It's acrylic. It's a 30 by 40 inch painting. The notes that are on this painting have to do with what I felt when I painted it. What I wanted to express was even a little dizzying feeling moving upward into this portal, and there's a galaxy there. Actually, it's the star. It's the universe of stars. So this feeling of moving upward in a tube. So that's where it came from, and I feel successful that I captured that. Now I'm going to talk very quickly about what it means to me. Physicists tell us that beyond the length, width, and height, that we go to the post office with a package, those are the 3 dimensions we can see, because that is all we experience. But beyond that, there may be 4, 5, 7, 9, 12 dimensions. These are hidden because we are limited by our 3D perspective of what we can see, or, So my idea being that perhaps we are on a point somewhere within this particular structure I chose as a tube, or what I saw as a tube, and we don't realize that we're in a curved space because we can't experience that, but we are. I like that abstract way. It's the only way we can understand it is abstractly. I like what that does to my brain. It's a challenge. And let's see, what else about this? I think that's about it. Again, the painting is not intended to show the Fibonacci sequence, but as I'm going to show you in a minute, the Fibonacci sequence is what helped me create this painting. Yes, that is how it worked. And I want to share that with you because I think it's an insight into the creative process that you might find interesting as art appreciators. So we're going to go there next and move over to this area of the easel. And that's another adjustment. See if I hopefully will be in this. All right. I think that will work. Okay, so I just mentioned about the Fibonacci sequence. Well, what is that? What am I talking about? Fibonacci was a rather interesting person, a mathematician who lived in the I think he was born in 1170. And then around the turn of the century, the 1200s, he published some mathematical ideas, one of which was later became called the Fibonacci sequence. He didn't call it that. He was Leonardo of Pisa, and he also went by Fibonacci. But he came up with this series of numbers. He also came up, actually, fun facts, he came up with some other cool stuff, like he is responsible for replacing Roman numerals with the integer, the Arabic numerals we are familiar with and use, so that common usage, the businessmen, whatever, regular people began to use numbers, and that made history. Another thing he did was he is the one who came up with the square root notation that we use in solving math problems. And also, I think is cool, the bar in fractions. There, he came up with the bar. So when you solve a fraction, you can see, oh, that's a fraction. Before, I think they used parentheses or something like that. So I just thought that was a little cool thing to add. But as far as the Fibonacci sequence of numbers, that was what I wanted to talk to you about. So let's make a sequence of numbers starting, of course, with 0, and we're going to add because we're making a trail of numbers. So 0 plus 1 is 1. You do the sum of the previous number with the current number. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and then you take the sum of the previous number with the current number. 1 plus 2 is 3. So then 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. And so on. 8 plus 5 is 13, and these numbers go on to infinity. Another abstract thought, which I really like the challenge of as well. Infinity, timelessness. Okay, so those are nice. One interesting thing about these numbers, that they actually are ubiquitous in nature. And I'm not saying this solves the whole theory of everything, not at all. But it's not just a coincidence. It's a pattern, a beautiful and elegant pattern that occurs in nature, so much so that it proves there is something, a beautiful pattern that it means something. I don't know what it means, but it's there. It's especially in the plant world. So if you look on the bottom, you know, pine cone, this is a red pine cone. Cool. And there's spirals, and you'll count these spirals, and oftentimes they will be like, there will be 5, and then you go the other way, and there's 8. So, petals of flowers. Many flowers have 3, 5. 2 petals, 8. And the thing is, life is messy. Some petals have 4. Some flowers have 4 petals. So again, you can't, it's not, I love that. Life is messy. There's not just one explanation for everything. Okay, so pineapples will show that. Many things, and I'm not going to get into the golden spiral and all the things that you can look up on your own about this, but I am going to talk about how I used these numbers to help me with Star Helix. So in 2013, this is the sketch I drew, and this is typical for me when I saw this in my mind. And I do a simple sketch so that I can remember later, so I can come back and get this thing down. Like I won't remember it. So 5 years later, good thing I did this, or it would have been gone forever. I had the inspiration. It was the time. It was like, I want to do, this is the time. Grab onto that idea and that painting and do it. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. I felt like it, so that was the time to do it. However, how should I start? I have these numbers in my mind that I don't know how to really translate into space. But this is what happened. I started with these diamond shapes because that is what I saw in my mind. For this, this was a artistic vision that came from inside my brain. I wasn't just painting nature that I saw, like a deer or something. So I started by trying, I called it a star helix. Is it a helix? Well, no. This isn't working at all. I don't want to do that. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And then I recalled a conversation I had with my daughter, who was very interested, or at that time was, with the Fibonacci sequence. And something made me want to look into that. Like, yeah, let's see if that will help with anything. So we're going to get to that now, where, how do we take these numbers and translate them into the real world? Just like a sketch, how do you make a painting from that? Well, what you need is, you need space and you need time. This is a space, and this spiral growing here is what happens through time. And I like to think of that in the plant world because through time there's growth. This is a growth spiral. And so like these pine cones, as it forms, it's adding in a very pattern-like way, like actually follows the Fibonacci spiral, mostly to maximize seeds so that they're not overlapping, so that they get the most sunlight. There's reasons for it. It's also used in art and design. This is a very pleasing proportion. How it works is, this is a grid of, let's say, 1-inch squares. So this is all filled with 1 inch. So you start with 1, as we were doing here. 1 plus 1 is 2. So here's your 2-inch square. And then 2 plus 1 is 3. So this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 by 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. So this is a 5-inch square. And so on. 3 and 5 is 8, and so on. Then you connect the corners, and it's not a straight linear line. It's more exponential, curved, and then you make this spiral this way, and this goes on and grows. What I did was I took this seemed to be right for me. This is what I felt would work for me. I cut this out, and I don't have it with me, but I took this template, I guess I could call it, in a larger size, and I put it onto my substrate, my painting, and I did that growth thing. I traced it, and then I moved it a little, just like a seed would grow, or a pine cone, you know, through time. And I would trace it, move it, trace it, until I started getting the patterns that is what I saw in my mind and what I wanted to paint. And it was a really joyful moment of like, yes, it's working, this is what I want. So that's always a good point and a good place to be at when you're working with an art and trying to figure out how to work this art piece into existence. After I had it drawn out, I started the painting, and then that's another process. The colors. These colors I placed mostly didn't change them, but it goes by how it feels and the balance of color. There was no pattern to it. It was just how it looked and felt to me. If it was out of balance, it's like I can tell, and I change it. So slowly I built up these colors, and it was a very time-consuming painting because these diamond shapes, you know, they're very clean lines, and it was meticulous. So you can see it was slowly coming together, and then that portal there is where the galaxy is showing through. Star Helix. Okay, so I'm going to go back and see if there are any questions. So I'll go back to where we started again. Let's see. Oh wow, it's almost 7:30. I'm sorry. All right, let's see what we have. I'm going to assume that they're not any. I'm sorry if there are, and I'm missing them. If there are, I'll answer them later. But I'm so glad that you came today and visited Otter Creations Songbird Studio. I loved sharing what I'm doing with you. And yeah, check it out. Watch as it progresses over this year. If you'd like. Sometimes I post on social media as well, like on Instagram. And of course, if you're here, you know my Facebook page. So check on there as well. Thank you again. Bye.